A Muslim feminist was asked why she, a feminist, a strong woman, was still walking behind her husband. The answer was simple: landmines. That's that was funny, but also somehow symbolic for the way that many partnerships have worked through the ages. Hiding behind a man with a vision, daring and strong, letting him take the risks, take the rap, the criticism without the responsibilities and the jealousies. All this standing behind your man, the strong supporting woman behind him, whispering in his ear, the first lady. But being self-effacing and demure has now come to an end. Taking it lying down or standing up has become, for most women, a condition of the past. It was an easy premise, a lazy and safe way to have influence, being admired for staying in the background. But now we took the plunge. We're also independent, career-oriented, and hated. Allowing no more bum-pinching and groping, no more mother-in-law or wife jokes like, "Take my wife, please." It leaves us in a collective Me Too and Time's Up battle from sexual harassment to petty, awkward, unwelcome seduction techniques. But more often, and more insidious, is the way that many women are ignored, written out of the script and invisible to the nakedly ambitious, self-promoting eyes. For these women, I would like to start a counter-movement called Me Neither. I myself have never been actually ignored. It's impossible with my big mouth and an upbringing by an angry feminist writer mother. But I still clearly have to defend my legacy, if not only by loud grumbling. A marriage is a subsequent family has always a bit of a hostess situation feel about it. In my case, a house with children and an office, always a hive of intense activity and collaboration. So the best escape from this constant battle of dominance is drawing, making things, playing, inventing games, and collecting, thus creating an alternative life outside or inside the family. At least that's how it's always been for me. Collecting started in America, searching for material for Deleuze New York and finding Americana, objects, souvenirs, postcards, books, models of skyscrapers, and anything inspiring. Basically, we were tourists finding beauty in obscure things, not understanding, speculating freely, freed from our rigid Calvinist upbringing in post-war Holland. We readily embraced bad taste in our excitement to shed the moral high ground. The ground rules were already there, inspired by people like Andy Warhol and the Venturis, who were also cultural tourists. Bad taste was the norm, and one of the liberating features of our stay in America. We plunged heavily into New York's multicultural society that was rebelling. The anti-authoritarian era had begun. While Rem was writing his book, I was inspired by a growing collection of books and postcards of New York. I was painting my New York series. I will show you some. I was collecting lighthouses, orange squeezers. There's an orange juicer at the back of the... Our first collaboration was with Ilya, Rem's teacher at the AA then, and his wife Zoe. A scheme for the Casabella competition, the city as a meaningful environment. I don't know if that is here. Sorry, my name is plastered. Rem had studied the Berlin Wall and was struck by the fact that the wall surrounded the free West Germans. So the idea for the voluntary prisoners of architecture came into being. It consisted of a long strip inspired by Superstudio's continuous monument, divided into squares. Rem and Elias designed the utopian content, and we, the wife, colored and pasted. Rem and I made collages. Inside the strip was heaven, outside was hell. Everyone won, I seem to remember. In the appendix of Deleuze New York, called Retroactive Manifesto for Manhattan, treating New York like an art movement, were schemes for New York, fantastical inventions, theories, one of which was the city of the captive globe. It was the multicultural city allowed to flourish and multiplied by the invention of the block on a grid. So then, this watercolor for the book, I never realized it was credited to Zoe at the very back, but 40 years later I discovered that in all subsequent reprints in all various languages, this miscredit was reprinted. The latest being by Reinier de Graaf's recent book, which I found in a museum bookstore in Rotterdam. I made a watercolor version, and Zoe did some acrylic. I redrew and painted a watercolor version for the exhibition called The City, adding in the right-hand corner a skeletal model of Rem's entry for the Grand Bibliothèque at the Pompidou Center. So this is all in the wrong sequence. But so the New York series, the love affair of two skyscrapers, the adventures of Miss Liberty, the subconscious of New York, I just showed you before, and later the birthday party with the postmodern babies. Collaboration has always been an enormous part of my working practice. To involve another mind, cultural discipline is crucial. Opening one's mindset to look through other people's eyes and make them look through yours, both stepping beyond one's own limit. Lina Bobardi, my hero, made people who do more than they dared. It's very important to overestimate each other's abilities, as it inspires some tour de force. Apart from Rem and Charles Jenks, I collaborated with Charlie, my daughter, Fenna, my niece, Sylvia, love cheese, Sylvia Lebedinsky, Kees Christianse made a chess game, and Assemble, among others. I feel strongly about the tendency to separate people's works from the people who collaborate in an office. I think people already are influenced by the presence of others alone. They're talking, they're drawing. The whole quest nowadays, who did what, is often a financial game plan. Charlotte Perrin, Anne Ting, Lily Reich. Had they worked alone? Certainly not. But if Me Neither movement had existed at the time, they would have been credited appropriately. Rem's influence has been enormous to many. He had an influence on my New York series, suggesting that the Rockefeller Center signifying modernity, catching the lovers in the act, even though it wasn't meant for the cover of Deleuze's New York. Would I have made a storyboard for an animation movie without Terry, who's actually sitting here? No. So collaboration has always been important. I really like that whispering game side of history. Outsider art is at the end of this game, the story entirely taken over by the listener or viewer, his or her interpretation of another culture, adding their life experience. I don't believe in authenticity. We all borrow from what we have seen. I was happily surprised when Rem, in an essay, had copywritten many random words. I find a lot of this copyright abusive and financially corrupt. There was even an attempt recently to copyright a color. In many instances, we all borrow, we all store and use images. Picasso once said, "Bad artists copy, good artists steal." Thank you.